Hey guys, Poro here, and after months of being radio silent on the topic, I finally decided to get around to starting my Every League Champions Most Iconic Player series. I initially thought about doing one massive multi-hour video that would just be there as a crazy long vid, but I decided to end up committing to an editing job for The Bloody Resh. With that in mind, I really don't have the time to do a 2-hour video on my channel unless I want to post nothing for 3 months, or take a year to actually finish this. So I am instead, as of right now, going to split this into a 4-part series with roughly 40 champions for each video. This video will cover all champions from A to G, starting with Aatrox and ending with Gwen. The premise is pretty simple, as the title would suggest. I'll give each champion a short section where I explain a few of the players who I considered, and then the one I finally decided on with some reasons why. I'm considering every player, including pros, streamers, content creators, and more, but I will be leaning more towards pros if the champ presents itself in that way, because pro play is my strongest expertise. I scoured match history, player history, subreddits, YouTube videos, and VODs to figure out this list, and I'm overall pretty happy with what I came up with, but of course let me know in the comments if I got something wrong or forgot a person. With that out of the way, let's get started with Aatrox. Luckily for me, Aatrox is a bit of a no-brainer. There are a few iconic Aatrox players that could be considered, such as challenger streamer Nail or super top Hushinshin. Some might also throw in Kingen for his Aatrox performance in this past World Championship. However, this was one of the easiest and fastest locks I had picked out, and it should come to very little surprise that the Shy is my pick for this champion. Everyone who followed pro play back in 2018 knew what a menace the Shy was in his prime, and the famous clip of the Shy basically winning a fight 1v9 is enough to seal the deal for this one. Ahri is next, and I actually did struggle a lot with this pick. While many pro players have had notable performances on Ahri, none of them quite seem to fit. Chovy is a lock for one of the best performing Ahris, but his name isn't really associated with the pick. Faker is another option due to his desire for an Ahri World skin, but he hasn't had the best string of performances on the champion to make anything notable. Outliers like Perks or Jensen might come up due to a willingness to play the champ even when it's out of meta, but again, it's just not enough to be the face of the champion. In terms of current streamers, there also isn't much to go off of, as none of the Ahri streamers really have a grip on the overall League community. With this many issues for what I thought would be an easy champion, I decided to change my mindset. What if someone could be the most iconic player not through skill or respect, but by negativity and disappointment? Iconic doesn't necessarily have to mean only positive, and using this metric made my answer for Ahri pretty clear. Vertical introduced himself as a high elo one-trick Ahri on a Reddit AMA about 7 years ago, and quickly went on to be the go-to destination for everything Ahri. His stream was the most popular Ahri stream, and he ended up becoming a mod for the r/Ahri main subreddit. Unfortunately, the entire community slowly turned on Vertical over time, as he supposedly came off with a better than everyone attitude, as well as false advertising on his rank. He would also frequently break rules of the subreddit even as a mod, and nowadays his name is only associated with negative emotions. Vertical is not nearly as known now, but he definitely was the most iconic Ahri for a long period of time, and is now the most infamous Ahri. Akali is thankfully not as tough as Ahri, and I immediately knew that it would be a pro player who would take the Akali throne. Some of the ideas I toyed around with for players like Angel, who garnered the nickname Angel of Death after his Ahri performances, VTO being the most dominant Western Akali potentially of all time, or even just Faker again. However, the 2022 World Championships made my job pretty easy, as Zeka proceeded to have some of the craziest Akali pop-offs in pro play history, giving him the smooth victory for the Akali slot. Akshan is another easy one, as he's a more recent champion with barely any time in the pro meta. Unless I want to include Doran for his sloppy Akshan game, or Darshan for his also sloppy Akshan game, it's an easy angle to start looking at streamers again. In terms of Akshan streamers, there's only one who has broken through the Akshan community and into the mainstream community, and that's challenger top laner Drewtooth. Whether it's for entertainment or education, everyone drops by Drewtooth's stream if they want Akshan gameplay. Alistar falls into the category of champions I like to call supports who literally everyone and their mother plays countless games of in pro play, also known as the how the hell do I pick someone for this. Alistar does seem like a scary task to pick one player for at face value, but that's only if you look at his support games. Looking at Alistar across the board makes this player stand out easily, and Shushay gets my spot for the most iconic Alistar. Basically, Shushay piloted full AP Alistar to major success in the mid lane in the Season 1 World Championships, and he was so dominant at the pick that it basically won them the title due to the champion select pressure it put on other teams. If someone can pilot a champion to win a World Championship title, that's basically a guaranteed spot on the list for me. Amumu is an odd case, as he's a noob stomper champ who's good in low elo and usually not so great in higher elo, meaning high elo challenger Amumu streamers really aren't a thing. He also isn't too great in pro play for similar reasons. However, he does have some good synergy with Misfortune in the bot lane as a support, and therefore I can pick Seos as my Amumu player due to his Amumu performance with Brance in the 2022 World Championships. Everyone remembers the bot gap clip, and Seos was one of the 2 people to make it happen.
Once again, little bit of a wacky draft. Oh my lord! You gotta love it!
Anivia's player award goes to Froggen. Is anyone surprised? Being part of the early seasons of pro play, the meta was still developing and was in a great spot for individual players to stand out on individual unique picks, and to this day, Froggen and Anivia are basically synonyms for each other. Annie is a tough champion to lock down for a list like this for similar reasons as Amumu. Not very common in higher elo, not very common for streaming, and certainly not an entertaining champion that anyone is popping off on. There are a few options I can go with, such as Cryan for constantly busting it out for zero reason, or even someone like LS for constantly just bringing it up over and over again. But I'm handing this one to Mako for his dominant Annie support performances over the year. He has an 80% win rate on the pick over 35 games. It's not like it's just a pocket pick he goes to sometimes, it's a staple pick that he revisits multiple times a year and is in his top 10 most picked champions, period. Aphelios is a skill-expressive champion whose most iconic player is someone extremely skilled at him. Viper was an answer I toyed around with, but unfortunately I think Viper is too good at too many champions to the point where most of them kind of overshadow each other. Because of that, giving the title to Aphelios' other really good player, Dom, is pretty easy. While Dom's 2022 left much to be desired, summer 2021 had a strong argument for Dom being the best performing ADC in the entire world. Most of that was off the back of his Aphelios, and it's difficult to think of anyone with a more dominant Aphelios at any given time. Ashe's most iconic player at this current moment is still Prey. He's one of the best ADCs of all time, and Ashe is one of his signature picks. Additionally, his Ashe played a large role in Rox vs SKT in the 2016 World Championships, which many consider to be the greatest series of League of Legends ever played. The reason why I say he's only the most iconic Ashe at this current moment though, is because of the rise of the Ashe extraordinaire Kadim Alford. Kadim is a hard-stuck Iron streamer who plays mostly Ashe, but his playstyle and his sense of humor actually got him on the good side of the League community and almost everyone loves him. There's a very good chance that Kadim is already a more iconic Ashe than Prey, but I'll leave that debate up to you guys. Aurelion Sol is another champion with a lack of pro players or streamers, but one of the rare exceptions is Huhi's A-Sol back in 2016. CLG made it to finals of MSI that year, and Huhi's Aurelion Sol was a large part of that. Even after swapping to support for years, A-Sol is still Huhi's 7th most played champion with a 66% win rate. Azir is historically one of the most picked mid laners in pro play ever, which may make it seem like it's hard to choose. Some of the best Azir pros include players like BDD, Chovy, Faker, and Closer, but I personally had an easy time picking Easyhoon as my most iconic Azir player. For those who don't remember, Faker had a really tough time learning Azir when the champion came out, so SKT brought in Easyhoon as a sub. Easyhoon was essentially just the SKT Azir player, and he was widely regarded as the best Azir player in the world at that time. In terms of a player being the face of Azir, nobody has gotten closer than Easyhoon in his prime. Bard is a funny champ in the sense that many people have used Bard as the face of their persona. Happy Chime Noises and Polypuff are 2 examples of this, with specifically Polypuff literally being a Bard player as the main shtick. Additionally, there are a large mix of pros and streamers who are great Bard players with some amazing plays. Of those Bard streamers, I would personally place Bardinet as the current most well known, mostly due to other high elo players hating Bardinet's roaming Bard top strategy. However, I do think there are pros with more iconic Bard play than streamers, and my pick for the most iconic Bard is Mickey X. Sometimes all it takes is one game, and Mickey X played the best game of Bard in League of Legends history in the 2020 World Championships when G2 beat Suning on day 2 of groups.
On the very edge, Swordart, getting focused down, a great binding from Mickey over the wall, but now track Mickey. Long range, magical journey, over the side, pink ward on the blast cone. I don't think I've seen that in competitive play.
Bel'Veth is a new champion without much play, meaning that the title for most iconic Bel'Veth is essentially a 2-horse race between Elyoya and Kanavi. It was painfully obvious during the 2022 Summer Split and World Championship that these 2 players were a large cut above the rest when it came to Bel'Veth play. However, I decided to give the nod to Kanavi as he busted out the pocket pick Bel'Veth prior to the World Championships, and is also more synonymous with the identity of a carry jungler.
You would be dead. DDG trying to score this in for a second charge, and they will get it. Tarzan has found Kanavi.
This is big damage, and he's dodged out from the knockup as well. He's going to pop up a steadfast presence for a little bit of extra movement speed, but he's left high and dry on his own. The ignite is good. Kanavi stays alive, and he even gets an extend.
Blitzcrank is one of those champions who has plenty of pro players to choose from. Some of the greats of the past like Mata or Snowflower could be considered, as well as some of the newer players like 2017 Ignar or 2022 Mark. I even thought about Doublelift in the early days of League back to when he was a one-trick Blitz support player. However, the title of the most iconic Blitz player has to go to the king of hooks himself, Madlife. Back in an era where the best Lee Sin players were determined literally just by who could land Q, Madlife was already sniping people with skill shots left and right, and of course this applies to Blitz, the champ with the most power budget into his hook in the entire game. Brand never saw much play in the pro scene and surprisingly doesn't have much spotlight for streamers either. When you think of Brand streamers, the only name that really comes to mind would be challenger streamer Rat IRL. However, there is one pro player who is known for his brand in a popular enough way to make it onto this list, and that's Licrit with his brand support during the ANX Miracle Run of 2016. To this day, most brand mains still unite under the Licrit flag when discussing the best and most respected. Braum is another one of those champions who everybody plays but nobody really stands out on. In fact, Braum is one of the most picked champs in pro play of all time. Basically, every big name you can think of for support has 50 or more games on Braum, making picking one very difficult. I do want to give a quick nod to Jankos' Jungle Braum during the funnel meta, but there is still one more support who I would put over him. While looking through Braum data and who plays it the most and who wins with it the most, the one player that kept on coming up over and over again was Ming. Ming has a tremendous amount of Braum games year after year, and it's easy to see why when you realize that his ADC was mostly Uzi. When your carry is the greatest ADC of all time, a defensive pick like Braum makes perfect sense, which complements Uzi's playstyle fantastically. Caitlyn is a strong perma-push lane champion who demands jungle attention and dominance. With this description in mind, you would think of an ADC like Imp, Bang, or Uzi. However, as surprising as it is, the one player who keeps picking Caitlyn every year in multiple games and performing well at it is Deft, even though he comes off as a stable, consistent, weak side ADC. Deft even wants Caitlyn as his 2022 world skin, even if it should be Ezreal, and is widely considered by the community to be the GOAT Caitlyn player. Camille is a staple Eastern top lane pick where the dominant carry tops pick every volatile matchup known to man. The best of the Camille players can be found in China, with great players like Bin, 369, and Zoom all having a lot of Camille games. However, nobody gets the job done on Camille quite like Ale, who's a completely different beast when he gets a signature pick. Some of the plays he pulls off with the champ don't even seem possible, and it's well known in the East that Ale is the Camille to beat.
Double buff there as well as he flashes away, gets a shield, but I think he's overstepped his mark. He goes golden, Mako jumping back in, still no ulti, hook shot into the wall shot, jumps back in! No way! Armor onto Mako, he's gonna get him too!
Cassiopeia has quite a few options to choose from. Pro players who play a decent chunk of Cassio all at a high level include Faker and Nemesis. Faker has a very good win rate on Cassio and Pro, and Nemesis plays a large amount of Cassio in Korean Challenger, but the award to best Cassio play goes to either Quad or Sally. Sally is one of the big names on the Chinese super server, and Cassio is his signature champion. However, I decided to give the nod to Quad here because his entire branding all the way down to his old pro play ID were all based around Cassiopeia. Cho'Gath never saw too much popularity in pro play and lacks very many notable committed streamers, but luckily QV, the king of weak side, was well known for his solid Cho'Gath play at the highest level. In 2017, QV had an 87.5% win rate on the pick with a 4.6 KDA, one of the most dominant Cho'Gath performances seen over the course of a season. Corki recently had a lot of time to shine in the meta with the recent Luden's Poke build, and also was famously boring to watch in the Azir vs Corki meta, but one player specifically has stood out on the champion and made him work for multiple years. Xie, one of the legends of the LPL, pilots Corki to great success with a 66% win rate across 54 games, despite being on considerably weak rosters over the years. Xie has to be careful though, as Cream is very quickly showing impressive performances on Corki that might push him into the most iconic in the coming seasons.
Dragon bot lane was still pushed out, C9 controlled mid.
Both sideways pushing for C9 too. They have that turret behind them for safety. Now they're sieging mid, so they're using triple pressure on all the lanes.
Be careful, here's the jump in, it's a two-man ult, he catches balls. Sneaky inside, there's a turret alive, though they gotta be careful. A big knockback, and that's the kill into Morgana. Azir goes down as well, but the dunks are coming through. A double kill for Balls, a triple kill for Balls. Holy cow, the kill for Balls, holy cow. That's what he's been picking Darius. Cloud9 have 3 members alive.
Diana may have had some of the spotlight recently on jungle with some standout performers like Bo and solo queue, but the most iconic Diana goes further back to the mid lane days where you'll find none other than the LPL legend Xie. The pick initially had a decent amount of popularity back in 2015, where Xie would frequently pick the champion as standout performances, but the aspect that set Xie apart from others was the fact that he kept picking it in the years to come after Diana was flushed out of the meta and dominating with strong performances. Dr. Mundo's most iconic player with no contest is Mouse. This is made funnier by the fact that you can't find anything by searching Dr. Mundo Mouse other than literal computer mice. However, a 17-4 win rate with a 5 KDA on a team that doesn't win earns you the right to be respected on the pick. Jackie Love is easily the most iconic Draven in pro play, but this list isn't just for pro play, and Tyler 1 has an argument to be the most iconic League player of all time, much less just Draven player. Tyler 1 sweeps this one.
No mana. You have no mana, bitch. You have no mana! Get the fuck out of here! Let's go!
Echo is a champion where you can dominate a game whilst running it down all you want, yet you have a button to absolve all of your instinct sins. Jizuke is notorious for dominating lane followed by running it down, and as you may expect, Jizuke and Echo is a match made in heaven. When it comes to the Spider Queen, there are two avenues you can look at. The first is to go all skill and mechanics, in which you can take a visit to the super server and find Jijumo, and at least one trick with the best mechanics you can find. However, I'm a bit of a League boomer, and my heart goes out to Score's dominant performances on Elise back when he was one of the greats, and he still stands the test of time as the most iconic Elise. Evelynn is a bit of a doozy in the sense that hardly anyone plays her. However, some champions are defined by a singular play that makes them famous. Going back to Prey on Ashe as an example, the one ult on Echo in the semifinals of the 2016 Worlds might be the only play anyone ever needs to see on Ashe, and then view Prey as one and the same with it. For Evelynn, this play took place in the 2020 Worlds group stage as Selfmade, one of the only Evelynn players in Pro, found a solo kill one-shot angle on double lift that is immortalized in the World's highlight reels. This isn't the first time Deft has been seen on this list, and it won't be the last either. However, of all the champions Deft has ever played, if you asked me to pick just one that would be synonymous with him, I would always pick Ezreal. In my eyes, no Ezreal has ever come close to the sheer amount of clutch factor and raw skill that Deft has displayed. Handcule and Ruler can try their best to play pretend, but Deft is still on top for this one. Fiddlesticks has seen very little play in competitive, but what little of it has been seen has been dominated by Inspired, the Wonderboy jungler in the West. He whipped out Fiddle in crunch time situations and pulled through, with clips of Doinby saying he still has PTSD of Inspired from it. Magikarp used Fly may have been the most iconic Fiddle in the years long ago, but Inspired has long surpassed the qualifications for this one.
Circumstances in the past. Here comes the Crow Storm!
Fiora's reign of dominance has been primarily through Chinese top laners and pro play. Whether or not you're a true carry top laner is dictated by how good you are at champions like Camille, Jax, and of course Fiora. Players like Breathe, 369, The Shy, and Ale have all whipped out impressive Fiora performances over the year, but the one Fiora that really takes the cake is Bin. He first got on the map with his pentakill in World Finals, and has since never stopped dominating it with the pick when he's allowed to have it.
Well, not just yet. Here comes Bin. As Darwana on the full retreat. SOFM hops over the wall, finds himself a route to Nagri. That means he cannot interrupt anyone else. He's being chipped away, melted, he's down, he's dead! That's it, Canyon's finished as well. SOFM hops forward, Ghost flashes defensively and rooted in place. Bin sends him packing. Ghost gets caught out, that's the Quadra, looking for it. Bin will pick it up, get the pentakill for Bin! And Suning Gaming in the World Championship final!
Fizz is another champion with only two contenders. The first choice is Westdoor, a legendary LMS player whose most played champion was Fizz with a 75% win rate. However, a 75% win rate is less than an 81% win rate, which is what LEC mid laner Pawn held in his career. Additionally, Pawn was known solely as a Fizz one-trick prior to his LCK showing, and was viewed as the most skilled Fizz in the world for a long period of time. Galio is mostly an unimpressive champion to watch, but there is one player who everyone views as a terrorizing Galio on the Rift, and that is of course Faker. Specifically, people refer to SKT vs RNG in 2017 Worlds, where Faker played Galio 5 times in a row and carried SKT to the finals in glorious fashion. The barrel heard across the world. Bin is still to this day the face that is hand in hand with Gangplank. I want to shout out Solar Baka here too, but Bin's legendary Gangplank play in 2020 Worlds is simply a moment that will never be surpassed ever again.
Can you do it? Huge! My God! One moment, one shot, one barrel. That's all you need. Shooting. They find their shot, they find their fight, and that's it.
Garen is arguably the one most like a tutorial character with very little skill expression in the design. As such, it rarely sees play in the pro scene outside of a random pickup from Starscreen every now and then. Garen did see a large amount of play in 2019 though, when Reckless busted out the pick in the famous Garen-Yuumi combo. He may have only played it 6 times that season, but it left a mark on the pro scene and easily makes Reckless the most iconic Garen player. Gnar, unlike Garen, is one of the most picked champions in pro play of all time. There are countless highlights of 5-man ults into walls or crazy outplays with many Gnar kiting. In fact, it's almost to the point where someone can do a combo like that and it gets mostly forgotten to the world within a few days. Kana had a crazy 5-man ult during the LCK opening games, but I bet by the time this video goes live, nobody will remember or care about it. However, there is one man who rises above the mix of Gnar highlights and standout players, and that man is none other than Gnar extraordinaire Armut. Gnarmut is known for his many picks such as Dino Gnar, Gentleman Gnar, El Leon Gnar, Super Galaxy Gnar, Astronaut Gnar, and even Elderwood Gnar. A man with this amount of mastery cannot be overlooked, and his name will forever be remembered for generations to come. Gragas is a bit of a no-brainer as he was the most picked champion of Score, who is of course one of the greatest junglers to ever touch the game. There have been some timeless Gragas plays from other players such as the Flash Predict by I Will Dominate, but Score's Gragas left behind a legacy that won't be filled anytime soon. Graves is seen by many as the ultimate carry jungler. If you can't play Graves, then you aren't a carry player. That's the reputation this pick carries with it, and nobody else can hold the torch of the greatest carry champion other than the greatest carry jungler in the game, Canyon. If Bo had a bit more time in the spotlight, then maybe he could hoist the Graves trophy, but Canyon has had many dominant years to prove why his jungle play is the best of the best, and a 28-5 record on the pick should be all is needed to shut out the doubters. Rounding out the list for today is Gwen. She's a bit of a newer champion, but nonetheless has a very large sample size to look at. Despite this, the pick for best Gwen player is clear to me, and that is Breathe. In 2021 summer, WE had a crazy miracle run that brought them all the way from the first round of playoffs to a 5th place finish in the LPL. During that run, one thing about the team was clear. Breathe was an absolute unstoppable force in the top lane, and you could not defeat WE without defeating Breathe. At the top of his arsenal was Gwen, and watching Breathe pilot her was the most intimidating feeling I've felt in a long time. To me, watching WE climb through playoffs was solely based off of Breathe's Gwen performances, and it felt like WE physically could not lose when that champion was locked in.
At this point, Rookie hooked in as Missing finds yet another anchor, and it's going to sink IG all the way to the bottom of the ocean.
That's going to do it for part 1 of this series. If there's anything obvious that I missed or any champions that are up for debate, let me know in the comments. If I'm convinced, I'll add quick updates to the start of next video to overwrite some of what I said in this one. I plan on covering every champion from H to M in the next video, starting with Hecarim and ending with Morgana, so I'll see you then.